What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're going to look at the tournament results from this online event, the Late Night Special 18, which was held on play.limitlesstcg.com on November 29th, and there were 275 participants for this event. So here you'll see that we're going to be starting out with looking at the metagame share of the event, and then we'll look at the standings and then some of the deck lists. Before we do all of that, though, please remember to subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, and also check out my wonderful sponsors. Links are in the description down below. Let me know what you think about some of these decks and also about my analysis of them. If you have any differing thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. So let's get into this. Lugia, Arceus, and Lost Zone Box were roughly tied for being the most popular deck at 20% apiece, and neither of them had a win rate of over 50%, showing that, these decks are getting countered a lot, and also the general population are playing these decks. When you see, like, Lost Zone Box is very convoluted and can be difficult to play, so you'll have a lot of people trying it out for the first time or working on getting better with it, things like that. Same for Lugia Archeops, except Lugia Archeops is a little bit easier to play. But generally, it's very hard to get the win rate to look good when you have so much of the population playing the deck. We'll see that some of these decks down here, they don't really have large sample sizes, but Arceus Duraludon had a good win rate, and Regigigas had a good win rate, even though they have low sample sizes. Vikavolt Regigigas also with a 58% win rate, but only 5 people played it, so it's hard to value these win rates, but it's interesting just to note them. Something else I wanted to mention is that Mewtwo Miltank did have a player. This is a control deck. Mewtwo control had a player at 8-2-1, but they dropped from the event. That happens all the time. People don't want to play online events until 3 a.m., so they'll just drop regardless of their record. So this is something to note. This person, for all we know, could have went on to win the whole event. We don't know. So I did want to just take a quick look at their deck list and their record before we go into the standings for the top 8. This isn't a new archetype. This is something that came out at NAIC when Sander Wojcik and Dean Nazam and a few other people played it, and Sander got top 4 at that event with this deck. So, just a little bit of an updated version of that Mewtwo V Union control deck, because Mewtwo V Union can infinitely heal itself. It has an ability that's like a built-in big power soul for itself, and then it also has the attack, which puts 16 damage counters on your opponent's board however you like, so you can just, heal yourself infinitely and then start taking prize cards with Cysplosion. So this is a deck to keep in mind, although it won't be shown on our standings. So here we have the standings. Top 8 included 3 Lugia, 2 Mew, 1 Arceus Duraludon, 1 Vikavolt Regigigas, and 1 Regigigas. So, Lugia Archeops, not surprising to see it in there, both because we already know it's a good deck, and because it was popularly played at this event. Lost Zone Box was also very popular, except it did not break into the top 8. We had 3 Lost Zone Boxes in top 16, so we will take a look and see if those are Mirage Gate builds or Sablezard builds. And so why don't we start with that? Here's our first look at a Lost Zone box from this event, and this is definitely going to be a Mirage Gate build. You have the Zygarde with Core Avenger that can take care of fighting weak Pokemon like Arceus. And then we have, of course, the Kyogre with Aqua Storm. So the strategy with this card is to empty your deck for the last turn of the game, and then Energy Recycler to make your deck a 5-card deck only containing basic energy, and then you Aqua Storm those 5 energies off, and you do 250 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So the Kyogre is strictly just that, like, end game strategy. And then you have Zygarde to hit Fighting Weakness, Raikou to hit Lightning Weakness, Snorlax that just does a nice 180, and Sableye and Cramorant for your more general attackers. Now let's look at the next Lost Box at number 10. This is going to be pretty similar, also playing Mirage Gate. Actually, it's similar because it's playing Mirage Gate, but it's also widely different because it's playing Amazing Rare Rayquaza and Raihan. So the Amazing Rare Rayquaza has the Amazing Burst for Grass Lightning Fighting. It does 80 times, discard all basic energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 80 damage for each type of basic energy you discarded in this way. So if you have 3 types of energy, you do 240. If you have 4 types of energy, you do 320. And then the last Lost Box deck in top 16 is a Sablezard variant. Perfect. So we get to take a look at 3 different kinds of Lost Box decks. This one won't be playing Mirage Gate, and it's focused on just using Sableye's Lost Mine, Cramorant's Spit Innocently, and Charizard's Combustion Blast as its 3 main attacks. This is a variant that we saw win the Peoria Regionals when piloted by Tord Reklev. So if this is a deck that you'd like to see more gameplay of, you should search the Peoria Regionals for those streamed matches of Tord Reklev, and if the Kyogre variant is something you want to see more gameplay of, you can search for Grant Manley's streamed matches from this past weekend at the LAIC event. All right, so let's take a look at top 8. We'll do all of the Lugia decks at the end together, so let's start with Arceus Duraludon, which got 7th. Okay, so we've got 2 big Parasol. That makes sense because we want to protect our Duraludon VMAX from being knocked out by Amazing Rare Eviltal. Hyper Potion for some healing. Single Strike Tower of Darkness. So you have extra draw power as opposed to the Crystal Cave. I do like Crystal Cave, but Tower of Darkness is helping you draw cards, and Arceus Duraludon can be a very clunky deck because it doesn't play any support Pokemon like Crobat or Luminion or Comfy or Celebrations Mew, none of those things. So on turn 1, all you have are these bulky Pokemon V that pretty much do nothing to progress your hand. So having something like Tower of Darkness for some extra draw power can be very nice. Arceus Duraludon's, let's see its matchups. So they lost to 3 out of 5 Lugias. They went 2 and 3 versus Lugia. ID'd, they tied against the only Mew they played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 0 versus Lost Zone Box. So that's good. And then they played against some other stuff. So 2 and 3 versus Lugia and 5 and 0 versus Lost Zone Box would be the takeaways there, I'd say. Let's go look at Mew. So this is Mew with Meloetta. Let's see if the next one is also Mew with Meloetta. It is not. So we'll also get 2 different versions of Mew VMAX. That's a treat. So we've got Mew VMAX Fusion Strike here with Meloetta and Alessa Sparkle. This player is using 3 Pokemon catchers in addition to Boss and Serena, so a lot of gust effects available, including item-based gust effects. They got the Forest Seal Stone, 2 Lost City, and the Pumpkaboo. So the Pumpkaboo and the Lost City are both ways to get rid of Path to the Peak if needed. And then we have Forest Seal Stone that can be used under Path to the Peak. Of course, it can't be on Pokemon TCG Online because it's bugged, but in real life, you can use Forest Seal Stone's V-Star power even if Path to the Peak is out. So that's essentially like a pseudo 4th out to Path to the Peak. And let's take a look at their matches. They lost to Vikavolt Regigigas, they lost to Regigigas, and they lost to a mirror match. They went undefeated against Lugia and undefeated against Lost Box. So that's pretty good. And now let's look at the other Mew. This is going to be Mew DTE with no Fusion Strike energies. They're playing 2 boss. They got the Roxanne Path, double Marnie. I like this kind of Mew because it does play Marnies. So that's a really nice thing to have. And then it also has cross switchers instead of the Pokemon catchers we saw in the last one. Also very nice for being aggressive. And let's take a look at their matchups. So they played against 3 Lugia, and they beat 2 of those 3 Lugia. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. They played against 4 Lugia, and they beat 3 out of 4 of the Lugias. The last one being the Lugia that they lost to in top 8. Played against 1, 2 Lost Box decks and beat both of them. Their losses were Regigigas, and they only had 2 losses. Yeah, so Regigigas, and then the Lugia Archeops at the end. So they actually had a really good record. Okay, next we've got Vikavolt Regigigas. So Vikavolt Regigigas got top 4 in this event, and this list looks pretty good. So we've got the Stormy Mountains for some consistency early. Also got the Temple of Sinnoh to make it harder for decks like Lugia and Mew with double turbo energy to function. 4 Melanie for consistency, the 4 Seal Stone for consistency as well, Radiant Greninja because you'll get to draw a bunch of cards and also set your water energies in the discard to use with Melanie. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Raikou V for the aggressive capabilities. Looking good. So let's see their matchups. They had 4 losses across the event. They lost to an other deck. Let's see what this was. Oh, it's Mewtwo V Union Control, but it was just listed as other because it didn't have Miltank in it. So Mewtwo V Union Control, they lost to. They also tied to an other deck, which was another control. Okay, so they lost to 2 quad Eviltal Celebration decks, control type decks. Did it have Miltank? Yeah, this deck just auto loses to a single Miltank, so that explains those. Beat an Inteleon Zard, beat an Arceus Inteleon, beat a Giratina, beat a Lost Box, lost to Lugia, and then beat a Lost Box, and then played against yet another quad Eviltal with Miltank deck, but somehow they were able to beat that one. That's crazy that they hit all these quad Celebration Eviltal decks with Miltank. Lost to Arceus Duraludon, and then they beat Mew and 3 Lost Boxes. So this deck is looking very, very good against Lost Box. Do note they played against the same Lugia player twice, and they lost to them twice. Next, we have Regigigas going 13-2-1. And they are playing some gust effects. We've got the Serena because some Reggie decks were playing 0 ways to gust, no boss's orders or anything like that. So with Serena, it's easier to fit that in now. And let's take a look at their matchups. So their 2 losses were to Mew VMAX and to Lugia VSTAR. They beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They beat 5 out of 6 of the Mews they played against. 1, 2, 3, 4. They beat all 4 of the Lost Box variants that they hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. They went 2, 1, and 1 versus Lugia. They beat an Arceus V-Star Mewtwo V Union deck. And they also beat an Arceus Duraludon. And then finally, we have the Lugia decks. So 8th place Lugia here, going 10-5, losing to Regis, Arceus Duraludon, Mew VMAX, Mirror Match, and Mirror Match. Let's see what they're doing here with their list. So they've replaced the Dunsparce with Raikou for that amazing shot attack. That's going to be pretty good against single prizers and also against any Lugia decks that don't bench their Manaphy or don't bench their Dunsparce. So this can kind of come down as a surprise when they're not expecting it. Take out Lugia plus Eviltal. They're also playing a Charon's Care, which is worth noting for sure, to heal their Lugia VSTAR. And then let's look at the second place list. So this one is closer to Tord Reklev's list, playing the Dunsparce, Manaphy, Guru. It looks like they cut a card to add in Crobat. They cut the 4th Research to add in Crobat. And they cut something else to add in V-Guard Energy. Let's see, how many energies are they playing? Is this 15? Okay, so they cut 2 Capture Energies to add a V-Guard and a Twin. And it seemed to work out fine for them. And then we have the first place Lugia deck, going 13-3-1, also cutting the Dunsparce for Raikou. Also cutting 4th Research from Tord's list down to the Crobat V. And then we have some other changes like the Charon's Care, cutting 2 captures for V-Guard and Twin, which we're seeing across the board a good bit. And yeah, that looks, yeah, this looks pretty good. I like that. Now let's look at their matchups. So, let's see. They won every mirror match. They lost to Atina. They lost to Arceus Duraludon. And they lost to a Mew. So, those are the results from the late night Season 6 Special 18, with almost 300 players playing on PTCGO for this event. Let me know what you guys think about the results, the deck lists, which lists you like, which lists you don't like. Are there any decks that you think could take advantage of this metagame? Let me know about all of that in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.